Good evening everybody, my name's Matthew Cox and welcome to Frugal Finance. Today we're going to talk about some goal setting. As you'll see in the top hand corner here, Christmas is over in the Cox household, so now it's time to focus on our 2021 goals. Let's get stuck in. So bang, here we are back in the office, all ready and raring to go. It's 2021, let's get started. First of all, let's have a little sip of coffee. This is homemade coffee, not Starbucks or Costa coffee. Probably cost me about 1p that. Well, the first thing that we need to know is that money isn't everything. Health and well-being are far more important. Obviously, financial well-being shouldn't really be ignored because that actually kind of rolls into your well-being and your health. Obviously, a lot of people get stressed about money. A lot of people feel uncomfortable about talking about it, and it really does affect you. Obviously, your general health is far more important than any of this at all, and you need to always factor that in. But obviously, if money is a worry to you, then really you need to grasp that and try and get it under control so that you can feel better in yourself and have peace and well-being. So with that said, let's just get into some goal setting. So I'm going to give a list of various goals that you could choose to do. So we're going to cover 10 topics here. So you'll need to listen up. Obviously not all of these will apply to everybody, and some people will need to adapt them a little bit for their own personal lifestyles, but essentially here are 10 goals that you can set, whether you choose to use 5, 2 or 3, who knows, but these are some ideas for you. So number 1, create a financial plan. Set out your long-term goals, your debts, your assets, your liabilities, short-term goals, a financial weekly planner, that sort of thing. So create a financial plan for where you want to be this year and how you want to see things going forward. What I mean by that is have a look at your long-term goals. So you could be looking at 2 or 3 years down the line. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be at the end of this year? How are you going to actually judge that? What are you going to do that is going to actually allow you to achieve those goals? So we'll set this financial plan out, and it might be to save £100 a month, for instance. So what are you going to do that financial plan to save that £100? You need to look at your debts, your assets, your liabilities. So things like your car, is it getting older? Are you going to have to spend more money on it this year? Debt, how much of that do you plan to pay off? Are you going to look at the avalanche or the snowball technique? See other videos regarding those and how to pay off debt. Links in the description below. But essentially you need to have a financial plan. That is the number 1 tip. Number 2, you need to set up an emergency fund. So 2020 really probably shocked a lot of people in terms of what happened and how quickly it happened. So we're all happy come this time last year in January, February time, and then bang, around March, April time, really the proverbial hit the fan, and people started to lose their jobs. You found yourself furloughed, there wasn't the work available, so really that emergency fund or plan came into effect at that moment in time. So emergency plans, or funds if you like, rather than plans, are 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. We're not talking about the money that you spend with your mates down the pub or going to the cinema or having a nice time when those things are actually open. What we're talking about is what is the minimum payments on the mortgage, what is the minimum payments on the electricity, the gas, what do you need for food, what do your kids need, mobile phones, telephones, other subscriptions, things that you can't get out of, do without. That's your living expenses, okay? And that will vary for everybody. But essentially, really what you want to be doing is looking at saving up 3 to 6 months. That way, if you ever find yourself in that position, you are not in a danger zone where you suddenly need to dip into something that may be a stock or a share that has fallen, or go and borrow money off a credit card at a high interest rate. You have that money and you can access it. So number 3 is create a budget. Now, that is a budget for your household, for your business, for your lifestyle, whatever it is you want to create your budget for, your expenses. So for me, I have a budget for my home. So we look at things like what we're going to spend for Christmas, what we're going to spend on the kids' birthdays, days out, holidays, utilities, telephone bills, broadband, all those kind of things. That is our budget, and we put that money into a pot every month for our budget. And yes, there are a few luxury items in there, like days out and maybe just other expenses and various things, but there are some things in there that are luxuries or not luxuries, like clothing, for instance. It's compulsory that my kids have shoes on their feet, generally speaking, unless I want to get some funny looks from the other other parents. But essentially, those are your key budgeting items, and that budget could be as large or as small as you like, but it needs to be comprehensive. It needs to cover everything that you need to spend the money on, and you need to monitor that budget throughout the year. So your goal is to set a budget and then monitor it and adjust it. If you find that you're putting aside too much money for something or not enough for something else, you need to adjust that, and that is a yearly task. Now, whether you apply that to your business or your personal life or any other avenue that needs a budget, those are really useful tools for goal setting, because they allow a continuous, tangible way of inspecting and reviewing your expenditure. So number 4 is pay off any debt. Obviously, I've got other videos on that, and the links are in the description below, or you can search the playlists or Google search for our channel through the YouTube bar at the top there, or you can probably Google it as well. But basically, paying off debt is a goal that you can set. So you may have, I've got 5 credit cards with £1,000 each. I've picked on the one that's got the highest interest, and my goal is to pay that off by the year end. The others I'm going to make the minimum payments on, but I'm going to choose to pay that one off. That's the avalanche approach, which again, as I say, we referred to in previous videos. Or you could look at the snowball effect, where you go, right, I've got for these 5 credit cards with £1,000 balance on each one. I'm going to fire a minimum, more than the minimum payment, but a minimum payment of £50 to each one. And in that way, the overall debt comes down. Now, it's down to you and your personal approach and your well-being as to what you prefer to do. Me personally, I prefer the avalanche approach. I take out the one with the biggest debt on it and the biggest interest and pay that down quickly. And I feel like that psychologically, to me, reduces the amount of debt I've got. So if I've got 5 credit cards, it now comes down to 4. And then obviously you can then save a reasonable amount of money because you're paying off the one with the highest interest. Other people just like to see the overall balance come down. Rather than owing 5 lots of £1,000, they rather owe 5 lots of £750. That makes them feel more comfortable. So it's whatever you do that makes you feel more comfortable. And as I say in every video that we do here, this information here is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Foremost, it is for your entertainment. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have a practicing license, so you must take this information with in a kind of entertainment form. If you need proper, formal advice, you need to seek an independent financial advisor. So with that said, let's get on to number 5. So number 5 is saving for your retirement. So if you don't already have some form of pension or SIP, then you need to look at getting that in place. That could be a goal for 2021. Now, in recent years, obviously the government have introduced compulsory pensions for employers. You may have opted out, or you may be getting a very small kickback. So I think it's something along the lines of, comment below if you know the actual figures, but you put in 5%, your employer has to legally match it by 3%. Nest is probably one of the most popular ones in the UK for employers to go to because it's the minimum legal requirement, but your employer may often offer you some sort of match or double up. So you put £10 in, they put £5 in, so that's a 5% or 50% of what you've put in. If you can, I would max those out as much as possible, or set a goal to be realistic about what you can do with your retirement savings. The goal here is actually to start that journey. It's all well and good putting all your money into property, stocks and shares and the rest of it, but if you haven't got a good spread of investments and your portfolio is not diversified, it is obviously subject to massive market fluctuations. So setting up a retirement fund is a really good goal to have in 2021 if you don't already have it. If you've had pensions from various places, maybe your goal could be to consolidate them all into one. There are places like Pension B and so on that can do that and pull it all into one place so that you haven't got like 6 pensions with little bits of money in dotted all over the place. And then obviously you really need to look at what your pension's invested in. So obviously, generally speaking, some form of the stock market or bonds or something will be what it's invested in. If you're towards the end of your pension journey, you might want to look at the risk factor and lower that a little bit. If you're at the start, you might feel that you can afford to be more risky because time in the market is going to reward you. So those are your goals for that. Obviously, if you're a company owner, there are good tax write-offs for pensions. There are tax deductible allowance. So if you've got some spare profit at the end of the year, you might want to consider, instead of drawing out for a nice holiday or a better car, you might want to consider putting that into your pension pot. So moving swiftly on, number 6. So this is not dissimilar to number 5 in saving for retirement, but this is much more short-term investing or saving. So you might want to start investing for a period of 5 to 10 years. So we're still talking a long term, but you might want to be looking at things like ISAs and various stocks and shares trading accounts, where you can invest that money and you don't need to touch it because you've got your emergency fund in place, you're paid down any high interest debt, and you can now start to save that money and put that aside for investing. You've invested it and you need to leave it there for 5 to 10 years so that you've got a good amount of time in the market. You can't go putting it in and then expecting to withdraw it a few months down the line or weeks or even a year down the line and always expect a profit. Obviously, some people do day trade or trade more frequently, but generally speaking, for most people, putting money into standard stock like the S&P 500 and leaving it there, buying more through the dips, through the highs, through the lows, just continuously buying through a long period of time, will probably see you a pretty good return of, on average, between 5 to 10%, depending on where you invest that. Obviously, there's a chance the money could go down, so you need to also consider that that is really the reason why you need to leave it in there for a long period of time. If you need that £1,000 to repair your car, or you're saving up for a deposit to buy a house, don't put it in the stock market. It's very volatile. It's long-term gains. So moving on, number 7, saving for a home. Obviously, some people will have purchased a home already, or maybe they're looking to purchase a buy-to-let property or do some other investments within real estate or property. But essentially, saving for a property is a goal that you could set. If you haven't already used the government various things, I know there was the Help to Buy scheme, which is no longer available. There's talk about some new schemes coming in, so you need to keep an eye on those. There's the LISA, the lifetime ISA, and various incentives from builders as well. They will try and pay deposits and assist you, but they, at the end of the day, they want to shift on their developments and so on. So you need to be looking at that as a goal in terms of how much do you need? What is your end goal? If your end goal is to save up a 10% deposit on a £200,000 priced house, you need 20 grand. What's your goal for the end of 2021? Is it going to be £5,000 saved between you and your partner? You're going to save £5,000 each. Set a goal and try and aim for that, and utilise those government incentives and builder incentives to maximise your money. So, moving on, number 8. Getting through this list pretty quick. So, number 8 is working on your credit rating. That is going to become imperative if you need to borrow money. So if you're looking at getting a mortgage moving home, first time buyer, all that kind of stuff, your credit rating is going to be a defining factor in what kind of interest rate you can get, whether you can even get a loan at all. So a goal might be to get your credit score above a certain level. So Experian, for example, is one of the biggest ones in the UK, although there are others like Equifax and so on. Experian goes up to 999. You might have a credit score of 650, and your goal could be to have that at 750. What you need to do is work out how you're going to achieve that. So you need to go and get yourself logged in. They do free accounts, but you have to pay if you want the in-depth information. But you can generally get a good overview for free. And that will tell you what kind of money you owe, what debts you have. And there might be things that on there that you don't realise on there. Maybe old mobile phone bills that you forgot to pay off the admin charge when you cancelled the contract or something. You've moved address, who knows. You need to look at those and find out what it is that is keeping your credit score from not going up to that higher band, and have that goal. Find out what you need to get that mortgage that you want, or that loan, or whatever it is, why you need that higher credit score, and then have that as a goal. So, number 9, start a side hustle. So a side hustle is something that you do outside of your main job, that should hopefully earn you money. Now, I've got some videos on side hustles and what you can do to do that, to make side hustles and make more money from them. But obviously things like churning over goods on eBay, that's tax-free. You could start a YouTube channel. You could look at doing washing cars, doing other things. You could look at market research. You could look at a number of other avenues to do with property in terms of deal sourcing and things like that. There are numerous side hustles that you can do. If you just type in the search bar side hustles, there'll be loads of videos on it covering all of the various options and things to do. And obviously they do vary in amount of time you can put in versus the money that gets out. So for example, YouTube is very time hungry. You have to do all of these videos, you have to then go and edit them, then you've got to reply to the comments, and you've got to maintain that, and you've got to post regularly. Whereas say buying items off eBay, you might be able to do that in your lunch break. And then obviously if you're working from home, you can then perhaps cheeky monkey use a bit of time to post those items out. That's really what you need to be looking at from a goal setting point of view is what do you want to achieve? Is it a monetary value? Is it a status? Is it so many subscribers? Is it cash flow? Is it what is it? What is your goal, and how are you going to achieve that? So that is starting a side hustle. Number 10 is saving for your kids. Now, obviously the cost of university is pretty high in the UK, and I know that will vary everywhere in the world. But in essence, whether you're saving for university or you're just saving for their future, perhaps it's you want to help them onto the property ladder, or perhaps you want to help them start a business when they're older if they've got an idea, or maybe it's a wedding fund, who knows, whatever it is. One of your goals might be to save up for your kids' future. So again, you need to look at savings accounts, whether you're investing that in an ISA, stocks and shares, or cash ISA, or bonds, and really set a goal for how much you want to achieve. So your long-term goal, your kids might be, let's say they're 5, and you want to be able to pay for their university when they're 18. So you've got 13 years to save up. So what's your goal this year, and what's your goal next year, and so on. Because the goal will move. If the goal is invest £100 a month, and that gives you £1,200, and that's going to be enough by the time 13 years has passed, don't forget that you're going to have some compound interest on top of that if you're just putting it in a savings account. So you need to work out what your goal is. So a bonus one, number 11. Oh, 1 and 11. Need another finger really, don't I? Number 11 is really something I've touched on a few videos. It's investing in yourself. So whether or not that is learning a new language, a course, learning to drive, having some sort of education, various things that you can do to invest in your own self. And I believe that actually they are one of the most, or that is one of the most valuable things you can do. So by investing in yourself, you can then go on to achieve some other things. So by watching this YouTube video, you're investing your own time. You're realizing that you need to set some goals for 2021, and therefore you've invested the time to watch this video. Hopefully you've got this far in the video, and you will then set those goals, and then you will achieve things. If you try and achieve things just sporadically, they generally are not as successful as if you would be if you'd have invested a little bit of your own time into these things. Books on finances and so on, there's links in the descriptions below. If you do buy through them, then I do receive a small amount of commission. It's not very much at all, it's pence in most cases, but it does help the channel out. I can invest into new equipment, and then obviously hopefully the quality of the videos gets better. So with that said, let's move on to my goal setting for 2021. So for me, I'm going to look at a number of key areas. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at paying down any debt from property refurbishments. So throughout 2021, I have actually had to take on some debt in order to refurbish a couple of the properties that I purchased. These are for new kitchens, various odds and sods, so carpets and bits and bobs and various legal fees and things like that. So whilst I'm hoping to remortgage some of these properties and release this money to pay back myself, my goal is actually to have cleared off some of this debt, and I'm going to be setting out the figures that I want to achieve, so that when I remortgage, the funds that are released are not instantly chewed up by paying down this debt. So I'm using my own income in order to pay down this debt, so that at a later stage then I've got more capital, more cash free for doing further investments. That's my goal. My second goal is I would like to try and attempt to buy some more property. I don't know whether or not that's going to happen in 2021. I'm looking for simple buy to let where it's refurbished and then hopefully a tenant moves in and you can release some of the equity from before and after value. So the BRRR method, which again I've touched on other videos. That is a goal of mine to achieve, to try and expand the property portfolio. Obviously, I'm fully well aware that there are various hurdles in place at the moment, but it is a goal of mine and achievable nonetheless, and I will be setting out a goal for marking that achievement. So moving on to the next thing, I would like to invest more money into my SIP, ISA and various other things. I feel a little bit like I need to start diversifying my portfolio a bit more than I perhaps have at the moment. I do have a diverse portfolio, but it's very heavily weighted into property. And I feel things like using my ISA allowance as much as I can possibly use of it will benefit me long term, because at the moment the tax rate is 20 and 40% respectively, or 45% if you go up to the higher rate. At the end of the day, it is likely that that may change in the future, so I feel that right now when I'm paying a lesser amount, it's nice to put it into an ISA and try and get that back and withdraw that. That is in comparison to say a SIP or a pension fund, where when you draw the money out, whilst you get a lump sum free, say 25% of the value of that, you can withdraw that for free when you reach retirement age. The remainder of it you draw down on and you pay tax on whatever the rate is in the future. So if the rate goes to 25% for basic rate, I will pay 5% more than I am now. So I feel that diversifying across my pension and across an ISA is probably a sensible thing to do right now. So another goal for me personally is to upload YouTube videos consistently. I'd like to get to the monetization levels and get enough subscriptions and so on, and see how far we can grow this channel and then reinvest the money into the quality of the videos, and really see if I can make this sort of side hustle into a profitable affair for me, and then really helping you guys to get control of your finances and really settle down in your own well-being of your lives. So the goal for me is actually to upload consistently. I'm going to try for daily, but I suspect I'll probably fail at that. I do have another job to do. I'm quite a busy person, but my goal is daily. If I fail with that, I might have to adjust that as time goes by. It may be that I miss one or two. I'm not going to beat myself up about that, but I am going to try and have a goal to aim for that. So my next thing for me is to actually eat a bit healthier and exercise a bit more. So that's a goal for me. I know it's not a financial one, but in many ways it is, because by meal planning I'm going to save money. So by not kind of buying from the shop pre-bought sandwiches and things like that, I'm going to save a bit of money there. And exercising, hopefully I'm going to have more energy and a bit more enthusiasm and more focus to concentrate on endeavours like this side hustle and various other things. So whilst exercise is not particularly a financial gain to me or goal, I believe the knock-on effect or the side effect of the exercising and eating more healthier is as cost saving in terms of meal planning and is an increase in productivity. So that's the end of the video, guys. I hope there's some really useful tips for you there on goal setting for 2021, and I really sincerely wish you all the best with all the goal setting, and don't beat yourself up if you miss your targets. Just remember, it's dynamic, it's adjustable, you can move those targets, but don't have that in the back of your mind that you can move them, because then that will create a little bit of negativity towards actually achieving them in the first place. See if you can set those goals and achieve them without adjustment, and then adjust if need be. So if you like the video, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell so then you don't miss a video. Hopefully I'll hit that target of uploading every single day. Hopefully I don't eat my own words here. And if you could like and share, the YouTube algorithm really likes that. It helps the video get out to more people, attracts a new audience, and then hopefully the channel will grow and this will be seen by more people. I love the interaction in the comments below. We're not getting loads of it at the moment, but as time goes by, hopefully more and more people will comment there. And again, anything you can do to help with the YouTube algorithm will help get this video out to other people. So with that said, I think I'll leave the video there, and I'll see you next time.